I used to be a process server and I have a lot of interesting stories from that job. I have a couple that really scared me. This is one of those stories that really scared me. This experience helped confirm that I should always trust my gut. I went to an apartment building to serve someone who lived there. When I was walking up to the building, there was an older man sitting on a bench right by the front door. He'd had a cane next to him. He was friendly and said hello. I said hello back, and initially my guard was down, so I started to have small talk with him. I attempted to open the front door, but it ended up being locked. I explained to the man that I am process serving, so I was attempting to give some papers to someone that lives in the building. He started to go on about how he has a daughter my age and that he wouldn't be comfortable with her being a process server because it wasn't a safe job. He also said it must be extra unsafe for me because I'm so small. I'm 5'2" and at the time I was 110 pounds. I instantly started to feel like something was off. I also thought maybe I was being overdramatic because this is just an older man who has to use a cane. I felt like it was almost rude to be cautious of someone like that. I still had a job to do and I wasn't going to let this deter me from that, so I asked the man if he was willing to let me into the apartment building. He said he would. It seemed to take him some effort to stand up and walk towards the door with his cane, so I started to feel like I had been overreacting. The man opened the door for me and I walked into the building. I was about to go up the stairs, but the man insisted I take the elevator. I started to feel very uneasy, but for some reason I agreed to take the elevator anyways. I thought the man would leave me alone if I took his suggestion. I started to walk over to the elevator and he followed me. He continued to talk to me. He asked me about my job and life. I was trying to be vague. When I got onto the elevator, the man also got onto the elevator. At this point I froze because I didn't understand why he had followed me. The man was standing closer to the back wall of the elevator, and I was standing closer to the door. I didn't want to make eye contact with him in that enclosed space alone, but I was watching him in the reflection of the shiny metal elevator door. I asked him why he got on the elevator with me, and he said that he was watching out for me. When the man said this, I could clearly see that his head was facing me, and it moved down, starting at the floor where my feet were, and it moved up slowly like he was looking at my body from bottom to top. I started to feel claustrophobic and that I needed to get off that elevator now. The elevator door opened and I practically jumped out. I told the man that he needed to stay there because I wanted to respect the privacy of the person I was serving papers to. I then told the man to have a nice day because I felt like that was what I needed to say at the time, to end the conversation without him trying to continue the conversation. The man just nodded at me. I get off the elevator and begin walking down the hallway, looking for the right apartment number that is listed on the documents that are in my hands. I continue walking and I feel the sensation like I'm being watched, but I don't turn around because I'm too afraid that I will see the man standing there. I end up having to walk around the corner and further down the hallway. The feeling of being watched goes away, and I know it is because there is now a wall between me and whoever's eyes I could feel were watching my back. I get to the right apartment and knock on the door. There is no answer. I knock again, but this time much louder. Then I wait about 30 seconds and give the door 4 sturdy knocks before waiting patiently. I couldn't hear anyone inside the apartment. No TV, no pets, no microwave running. Just nothing. I fully believe the person is not home. I accept defeat. I'm a little annoyed that I went through all of this just to arrive at this person's apartment, but they aren't even home. I start to walk back the way I came from. I turn around the corner of the hallway and what comes into view makes my stomach sink. The man is standing there, one hand on his cane and one hand hovering in front of the elevator button. I keep walking while a bunch of different thoughts are running through my head. When I start to approach the elevator, the man asks, "How did it go?" I answered simply, "They weren't home." The man says, "I've been waiting for you here." There was something about how the man said this. I knew that I shouldn't go on the elevator with this man again. I basically did a drive-by and started to fast walk past him. I told him, "Have a nice day, I'm in a hurry." I didn't wait for him to reply and continued to move quickly past the elevator and towards the staircase. Once I reached the stairs, I'm not sure why, but I started running down them. Once I got down one case of stairs, I heard a loud, "Wait!" I looked back once and I could see the man up on top of the staircase, carrying his cane, and he began to run down the stairs after me. He wasn't using his cane at all to descend down the stairs, and he was moving way faster than he had previously. I turned away and ran as fast as I could down the stairs without falling down. I started to jump down 2 stairs at a time. I knew that he was close behind me because I could hear his loud feet as he was running down behind me. I reached the bottom of the stairs and almost ran into another resident of the building. I apologized and then felt panic when I realized the man was probably right behind me. I looked behind me and the man was using his cane again to get down the last few steps. I looked back at the other building resident and they had a puzzled look on their face. I mumbled, "Have a nice day," and booked it out of the apartment building and straight to my car. I didn't check to see if the man was following me, but something in my gut told me that the other resident being present had helped me. When I reached my car, I practically jumped into it. I slammed my car door and hit lock right away. I started my car and pulled out of the lot quickly. The parking lot required me to drive past the front door of the apartment building. I looked over to see if there was any sign of that man, and there he was. He had stepped outside the front door and was standing there, leaning on his cane and smiling at me driving by. He then gave me a slow wave. I don't know why, but I gave a tight-lipped smile. I still felt like I had to be nice even though something obviously really messed up had just happened. But at least I was in my locked car driving away, and he had no way of catching up to me. Fall 2017. I was 18 and starting my freshman year at a huge university 8 hours away from my home. Quite a lot was going on in my life as this was the first time ever moving cities, and my first time living parent-free after 18 years of living with limited independence in a strict household. I was going through all the wacky culture shock and mental emotional changes most college freshmen go through within the first few days of moving onto campus. This was the very first day of classes. After my last class, which was pretty late and ended at around 5:30 p.m., I stopped by a food court to pick up something to eat. I was too hungry to wait to get back to my dorm, so I sat alone at a bench in a courtyard between 2 buildings and started to eat. Yes, I know walking and eating alone was probably a really stupid idea, but I was naive as hell and figured that at a huge college campus, I would only be surrounded by other lost, confused students like me. I also had no friends since I moved to the city in school, not knowing a single person, and my raging social anxiety made me hesitant to try meeting new people. Anyways, I was alone on a bench eating my food when an odd-looking couple approached me. A tall, muscular, bald man and a petite Latina and Asian-looking woman with glasses and a bob-style haircut who was holding a few books. The man was completely silent, but the woman enthusiastically approached me, introducing herself as Carmen in an ambiguous accent. She didn't even introduce the man, and he just stood there silently. She started asking me stuff, my name, year, where I was from, what I was majoring in, before telling me she was from a Bible study group here in the city that a lot of college students find interest in. She opened a Bible and started reading me some random passage before explaining it, and continuing to talk more and more about this group. She asked if I'd be interested, and I quickly shot her down by explaining that I had no time in my schedule with my classes. I took my phone out of my pocket to check the time. She had been lecturing me for about 20 minutes at this point, and I made up some weird, ridiculous lie I can't remember about how I had to leave immediately. She snatched my phone from me and was like, "Wait. Before you leave, I'm going to give you my contact information so you can let me know later if you're still interested," and proceeded to put her number in my contacts. As I said, I was deep in culture shock of the whole brand new college freshman experience. I was terribly shy and I didn't have the confidence to be assertive in this kind of situation. I just let her do her thing. She gave me my phone back and I headed back to my dorm. I approached my dorm and realized I didn't have my keys or wallet, even though I swore I was holding them at the time that couple had approached me. I frantically ran back to the bench area and searched it thoroughly, went through my backpack, went through the nearby trash can. Nothing. I couldn't get into my dorm without my keys or ID, so I crumbled to the ground crying and calling my dad in a panic. This was my first time ever losing my keys or wallet in public, days after moving to a new city, and for an insecure 18-year-old, it felt like my life was over. My dad could only do so much from 8 hours away, so he instructed me to call the campus police, which I did, and an officer arrived and asked me for details of where I was, what my things looked like, etc. I didn't mention the odd Bible study couple to him at all because, in such a panic, I didn't think to consider they might have had any involvement or any way of reaching my things out of my backpack. I still feel very incredibly stupid for not providing this detail. The officer gave me temporary dorm access and instructed me to contact the PD daily to check if any missing items turned up. I was overcome with relief when I received an email 2 to 3 days later from an RA in a dorm halfway across campus, saying that my keys and wallet were turned into their lost and found. I never saw that couple around campus again. I avoided going places alone other than class. A few months later, I was scrolling through social media to see multiple posts about an ongoing sex trafficking ring in the area that would target college students by introducing themselves as Bible study groups. My stomach dropped. It sounded way too similar to the couple that approached me before my belongings mysteriously disappeared. 3 years later, I still feel like an utter and complete idiot for being more freaked out over my missing things more than the encounter of two strangers. One day, I was with my cousins and we were riding our bikes around this abandoned track field with a bunch of trees. An hour or so passed and this middle-aged man enters through the gate. He had an orange bag on, a blue shirt, and some jeans on. He sits down on a log and watches us the whole time. Me and my cousins were obviously creeped out and just ignored him. He seemed to be eating his food or whatever, so we just thought he was minding his business and we were just being paranoid. After like 3 hours, we were all pretty thirsty and tired. There was a store right around the corner where we could have gotten some snacks and drinks, so we decided to leave. It was getting late anyways. Mind you, the man was still there just watching us. While leaving, I ran over a rock and my bike leaped forward a little, almost knocking me off my bike. I laughed it off and we went on. Once we reached the store, I reached inside my pocket for my phone. It wasn't there. I asked my cousins if they had it. They said no. So I frantically told my cousin to go run back and check if I had dropped it, and he did. He comes back after 5 minutes and there was no sign of my phone. I start freaking out and I run back to the track field to look for it myself with my bike. I searched the grass and the trees, everything, but I still couldn't find my phone. Then I started realizing something. The man was still there watching me frantically looking for my phone. He just sat there and stared at me. Both my cousins come back from the store and find me still looking for my phone. My older cousin finally pulled out her phone and tries to track mine down. Thankfully, I always had my location on. The GPS on her phone showed that my phone wasn't far away from me and it was where I was at. I was about to declare victory until my cousin whispered in my ear, "What if that guy has it?" The idea wasn't completely absurd. He was actually sitting in the area where my phone claimed to be according to the GPS. But I just brushed it off and told her that wasn't going to accuse a random stranger of stealing my phone. She calls me stupid and we just kept searching. As I was still searching, my bigger cousin kept a close eye on the guy, which he was still chilling over there. Few moments later, he starts walking away. My cousin looks down on her phone up at the guy right when he started moving. My phone on her GPS started moving as well, in the same direction he was moving. So my cousin tapped my shoulder and showed me what was happening. I started to freak out. My heart dropped. I didn't have any idea how to deal with the situation. My cousin ended up telling me that we had to confront him or I would never have my phone back, and we cannot let him leave with it because it was my phone after all. So I did just that. I slowly ran up to him and politely approached the man. "Excuse me, sir. Have you seen a pink phone anywhere?" He slowly turned around and just looked me up and down with this sinister, mocking, smirking look on his face. He denies that he had ever seen a phone and started walking away. The GPS is literally moving once he started walking away again, my cousin says. At this point, I was pissed. Not the fact that he took my phone, but the fact that he lied to my face. He looked at me dead in the eyes and told me that he hadn't seen my phone. I gave him a chance to come clean. I could have been aggressive, but I wasn't. I was polite and patient, even though he was the one with my phone. At this point, I was pissed, so I scream, "Hey, stop!" He stops in his tracks, but slowly puts his hand in his pocket. I thought fast and assumed that he was going to pull out a weapon, so I stepped back. Not to my surprise, he pulls out my phone and hands it to me then, nervously laughing and apologizing. "You're lucky we didn't call the police," my cousin says. The word police clearly scared him and he starts apologizing, then he flees. My cousin was fuming and so was I. I started cussing at him and yelling, and I was just overwhelmed about the situation. What would you have done in this situation? Back when I was in college and I finally got my own car, my usual Friday nights were taking my cousins and my brother to my old high school's football games since we were all fans of the sport. The games would usually end by 9:30 in the evening, and after we got done with our late-night fast food joint run, the time would be 10:30 p.m. Whenever I drop someone off at their house, regardless of what time of the day it is or how much of a rush I am to go somewhere, I always make sure to sit in my car to wait until I see them enter their house. My mom and dad were the ones who always engraved this in my head because doing this ensured that they actually got home safely. My mom's fears were that they didn't have a key to get inside and they were locked out of their own home. And far worse, there was someone menacingly hiding behind the bushes or against the wall, far out of our sight. So the time was around 10:30 and I pulled up to my last cousin's house. The passenger side of my car that my cousin is sitting in is facing directly in front of his house's driveway. So as my cousin is gathering his stuff, I glance over to my aunt's house to see if there is anything or anyone around. That's when I see my uncle is underneath my aunt's car doing some car work, or as I thought. Before my cousin steps out of the car, I take a closer look and I now know that this man is not my uncle. I pull my cousin back into the car and tell him, "Look, who is that?" He is frightened at seeing this, and I tell him to call his dad to make sure that this wasn't him. As he does, I pull the car to the other side of the street just in case things go bad. His dad comes out as fast as he could, as do I, and now he and I are confronting the man underneath my aunt's car. The man is way underneath the car, as his legs are the only part of his body that isn't under the car. As it turned out, it was just a homeless man who had a few drinks as he was slurring his words, as we kept on trying to tell him that he needed to leave. I know that the man meant no harm, but I tell this story to people as a cautionary tale on why you should always make sure to scan the area and wait for your family members, friends, or whoever you are dropping off to make sure that they enter their house safely